Good morning, everybody, and welcome to all councillors and members of the public to the latest meeting of the Northamptonshire Executive, including all those watching the meeting via the live stream on YouTube. Members are reminded to keep your microphones muted unless invited to speak. Thank you. We come to agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from George Candler, Executive Director of Place and Economy, and Guy Holloway, Assistant Chief Executive.
Thank you for that, Louise. And so, noting those, there are no minutes requiring approval. We'll move on to agenda item 2, the members' declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members? I can't see any. So before we get to agenda item 3, can I start by welcoming our new Director of Transformation, Libby Caulfield, to this place. While some other councils are struggling to attract the very best officers, I'm delighted that Northamptonshire Council is rapidly becoming an employer of choice. Libby, you're most welcome to the team. We've got a hell of a lot of work to do. Thanks for joining Northamptonshire Council, and let's get transforming our services and delivering those efficiencies which are vital towards delivering our local plan for the future, our plan for the future. Thank you ever so much for joining us. So now we come to agenda item 3, and that's the notifications of requests to address the meeting. Councillor Jim Hakewell and Trevor Conway will speak. Can we start first by welcoming Councillor Jim Hakewell as Chair of the Corporate Scrutiny Committee on agenda item 3. Four. That's what happens when you put an extra item in to discuss.
Thank you for enabling me to speak to your executive today. I will comment on this item, but my comments will be appropriate to items 4, 5 and 6 on your agenda. I'm here today representing our Corporate Scrutiny Committee, who since last autumn have scrutinised and questioned aspects of the budget that is under consideration today. The committee is formed in proportion to the number of councillors elected last May across the different political and, dare I say, non-politically aligned groups. There is more detail. There is more detail on our work in your budget scrutiny process executive summary in your agenda on page 5. Our Corporate Scrutiny Committee carries out a critical role in scrutinising and reviewing the budget proposals, ensuring that they are subject to rigorous challenge. We received a presentation on the overarching financial position on the 29th of October last year to provide the context to the budget proposals, prior to the detailed sessions that were held in November 2025. The committee undertook the detailed scrutiny of the budgets prior to the publication of the draft budget in December 2025. I spoke on behalf of the committee at your meeting on the 16th of December 2025, outlining the work we had carried out to that particular point. It was not particularly helpful that government announced its local government settlement on the following day, the 17th of December. In line with what is viewed as being current sector-wide best practice, this scrutiny process took a risk-based approach, meaning that the key areas of the budget were subject to the scrutiny. We scrutinised the most volatile budgets across the council, amounting to a net budget of 255 million, or accounting for 63% of the council's anticipated spend in 26-27. The 3 key budgets are Adult Social Care, 152 million, Northamptonshire Children's Trust contract sum, 82 million, and Travel to School Transport of 21 million. There were many probing questions from our committee members, which were answered by yourselves as portfolio members and officer colleagues, helping us to understand the key issues and prepare our feedback to you. On behalf of our committee, I would like to thank you as executive members for attending our meetings, listening first-hand to our debates, and where appropriate, contributing to our understanding of the financial pressures we face as a council. Equally, I would like to thank officer colleagues who organise our scrutiny meetings, prepare agendas and keep us on track to report back at appropriate points in the process. Last, but certainly not least, I would like to thank officer colleagues across the council services for their presentations, and naturally the finance team for putting the financial picture together in the end. It has certainly been a journey with steep learning curve for everybody involved, as every budget setting process is, with so many variables, Chairman, and external influences. I'm sure we're all looking forward to next week's full council, where all the work over these months will conclude in the setting of next year's financial council tax budget, informed in part by our robust scrutiny work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hakewell, and I'd like to thank you and all of our scrutineers for their hard work over the last 9 months, and the officers that have supported those various scrutiny committees. And with that, I'd like to invite Councillor Trevor Conway to address the meeting as one of those chairs of scrutiny, the chair of our Place and Environment Scrutiny Committee. Trevor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. Just a quick one for me to say. I'm going in with this on naked, no prepared notes or anything. So this is just literally an opportunity for me to say a big thank you to Claire and her team for all the work that's gone into the budget up to this point. It's really hard work. The vast majority of councillors that came into Chamber after this election, like myself, were going in with no previous experience and no previous knowledge. And I wanted to acknowledge the effort that I've seen that's gone into this. When we've had questions, particularly around the budget and everything that's relatable to today's topic, those questions have been answered clearly, concisely, and giving us the information so that we can do our job. So I wanted to particularly pass thanks to Claire and her team. Then on to Councillor Graham Cheatley, who again, having the finance portfolio and being a new councillor, has done a fantastic job, in my opinion, in being able to again provide us with answers whenever we've had questions. And finally, last but not least, it's a big thank you to Councillor Jim Hakewell, Independent, for all the work that he's put in chairing the Scrutiny Committee, and all the efforts that have been put in to actually get this budget to where it is today. Again, when I've participated in those scrutiny meetings that took place, the information that we were able to garner and the questions we were able to ask and get the information has been forthcoming. It has made this whole process for new councillors very easy to understand and very transparent. And that's only through the hard work of everyone that's even been possible. So it's just a quick thanks to everyone for that. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Trevor. And I can remember when the discussion started almost on the night of the result of the elections, when everybody was saying, you've got all these new councillors, what's it going to be like? Well, actually, it's made a huge difference because we've looked at everything completely differently, and the scrutiny is part of that journey. So, it's worked, and I'm really pleased with the progress that our new members and obviously our existing experienced members have done as far as this is concerned. So with that, I'd now like to invite Claire Edwards, Executive Director of Finance, to introduce this report. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. So today's report presents the final budget for 26-27 and the medium-term financial plan to 2030, together with the capital programme. The proposals reflect an updated information provided from the provisional settlement, but we'll touch upon what's come out of the final settlement, which only landed yesterday. So just to give you overordering headlines, so the budget presented today is a balanced budget for 26-27 and supports expenditure of £432 million. This budget does include significant investment to meet demand pressures, particularly in adult social care and children's services. What we are seeing is significant pressures of 47 million, together with savings of 20. million as well. The report also sets out the assumptions around council tax and also sets out our funding assumptions around the dedicated schools grant as well. We are using reserves. It's targeted to support investment, transformation and management of risk across the medium-term financial plan. Reserves will always be reviewed following the final settlement as well. So just to sort of put into context the funding, we are still seeing significant challenges within our medium-term financial plan with uncertainty around the future of fair funding and business rates reset. We are seeing rising demands in key services, as we've said, in children's, adult social care, SEND, temporary accommodation still remains significant. We're also facing significant inflationary pressures and volatility around the market, which also will impact service costs. Within this report, it also provides the conclusion of the consultation, which we've had 375 respondents to. Within the report, it also includes recommendations and in particular seeks to request delegation for any technical adjustments ahead of the 1st of April for the budget to the Section 151 officer and the executive member for finance and efficiency and change. So the proposals in the budget for 26-27 do provide significant risk into the medium-term financial future, but I do remind you that this is a balanced budget. Therefore, we do seek to continue transformation and efficiency as it will be essential to deliver a sustained service platform for the future. And therefore, I'd like to go to the recommendations or take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Claire. I'd now like to invite member debate from the floor. Councillor Graham Cheatley.
Chair, I'm pleased to introduce the final budget for 2026-27, our medium-term financial plan and the capital programme through to 2030. This budget is presented at a time of significant challenge, both locally and nationally. Demand in essential frontline services continues to rise sharply, particularly in adult social care and children's services, alongside a demographic shift and continued high complexity of need. Despite this, the budget before you is balanced, responsible, and firmly aligned with our corporate plan ambition of delivering smarter, faster, fairer public services. For 26-27, we're proposing a net revenue budget of 891.3 million, which includes the 432 million for the general fund and an indicative dedicated schools grant of 458.8 million. This enables us to protect vital services while continuing the transformation needed to secure long-term sustainability. The budget includes 47.3 million of essential investment to manage demand and improve services, most notably the £17.7 million into adult social care and a £12.2 million into children's services. These investments ensure we can continue to meet statutory responsibilities and strengthen early intervention and prevention, which are critical to reducing long-term pressures. This investment is offset by a £20.1 million in savings, efficiencies and income generation, much of which builds on previously approved MTFP plans. This is a realistic and deliverable programme, supported by service-level challenge, scrutiny and a clear commitment to innovation, including digital transformation and smarter commissioning. To maintain financial stability and protect essential services, we are proposing a 4.99% council tax increase, so that's a 2.99% core and a 2% adult social care precept. So just for clarity, for a Band D property, this represents £1.75 per week increase, with most NNC households paying less than that. Consultation feedback shows that while residents are concerned about affordability, there is clear recognition of the pressures facing councils and the need to protect vital services for vulnerable children and adults. We're also maintaining a responsible approach to reserves, as Claire has already mentioned. She's confirmed that our planned use of reserves is appropriate, proportionate to risk, and essential to ensure resilience as we transition into the new national funding model. Alongside the revenue proposals, our capital programme continues to invest in the future of North Northamptonshire, supporting school place sufficiency, infrastructure, regeneration and modernised service delivery. This includes £26 million for school places and £8 million for children's residential care provision, helping us reduce reliance on more expensive external placements. Colleagues, this is a prudent but forward-looking budget. It protects core services, invests where need is greatest, supports transformation, and ensures we set a balanced budget, despite one of the most challenging financial contexts local government has faced in decades. I'd like to thank officers and the Corporate Scrutiny Committee for their work and constructive challenge. Chair, I commend this report and recommend the budget proposals to Council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Cheatley. Any other members wish to speak? Councillor Elizabeth Wright.
Thank you. So as Executive Member for Children's Education and Families, I want to briefly set out the position for Children's Services within this year's budget. Children's Services continues to face significant and well-documented pressures, both locally and nationally. Rising demand, increasing complexity of need and unavoidable external cost drivers, particularly in placements, send and safeguarding, mean this remains one of the most challenging areas of local government finance. Against that backdrop, this budget seeks to strike a careful and responsible balance. It prioritises the safety and well-being of children, meets our statutory duties and supports our corporate plan commitment to deliver better, brighter futures for children and young people across North Northamptonshire. Importantly, this is not a budget that simply reacts to crisis. It supports a direction of travel that focuses on early help, stability and better long-term outcomes, because we know that the right intervention at the right time is not only better for children and families, but also is more sustainable for the council. We are continuing to strengthen our role as corporate parents, improve placement stability and work more effectively with partners across health, education and housing. At the same time, we are being realistic about the scale of the challenge and the need for ongoing transformation and system-wide change. I want to be clear that protecting vulnerable children and young people is not optional, it is fundamental. This budget ensures that safeguarding remains paramount while also supporting the longer-term reform needed to manage demand and improve outcomes. I would like to thank officers and scrutiny partners for the work that has gone into developing a budget that is both responsible and compassionate, and I commend the Children's Services elements of the budget to the Executive. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Elizabeth. Councillor Kirk-Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly from a regulatory services perspective, a small but mighty portfolio within the Council. I know I've made similar points before, so I'll try and keep this short. Much of what we do in this portfolio is statutory, it's preventative, and often only gets noticed when things go wrong. But what this budget allows us to do is continue meeting those legal duties while focusing on what is ultimately a risk-based enforcement approach. That protects residents, it supports legitimate businesses, and it underpins public confidence in us. I'm satisfied that the proposals in here strike a sensible balance between financial restraint and maintaining safe, effective regulatory services. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any members wish to add anything? Well, I'll be absolutely delighted to second this. This is a balanced budget in very difficult financial circumstances. We welcome the government's multi-year settlement, but members, it is far from a fair settlement, and I think we've made our position absolutely clear on that. This is a budget that is responsible, pragmatic, and one that delivers the services, and also, and I'll hold it up again, members, and that is our corporate plan, which was voted unanimously in this chamber across party, and I'm very, very proud of that. So it's a budget with no gimmicks, but one that delivers on the challenges and that we're faced. And I commend the budget to this Executive. Thank you. So we've got a recommendation from Councillor Graham Cheatley, and I'm delighted to second it. Can we have a show of hands for all those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you ever so much for that. So We'll move on now to agenda item 5, which is the housing revenue account, the HRA final budget for 2026-27 and the medium-term financial plan. I'd now like to invite Councillor Claire Edwards, our Executive Director of Finance, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report sets out the final HRA budget for 26-27 and the medium-term financial plan through to 2030-31. The HRA is a ring-fenced account that manages all the income and expenditure relating to council housing stock and does not impact the general fund or council tax. We have undertaken tenant consultation, which has been extensive, with the tenant insurance group across 3 meetings. Following this consultation, the proposal includes a 4.8% increase in rent for 26-27, which aligns to the government policy for CPI plus 1%. The rent increase enables us to maintain standard services, continue investment into our housing stock, and supports our long-term business plans. The 26-27 budget is balanced together into the medium term. The HRA remains sustainable with reserves that have kept above the minimum requirement of 5% within this budget of £2.23 million. We still have risks within the HRA around right to buy receipts, rent collection pressures and the wider economic climate, together with increasing compliance requirements, which are being monitored closely throughout the year. Scrutiny has reviewed the proposals and made no changes. The budget in this paper ensures compliance, maintains investment in the housing stock and supports tenant services and ensures that the HRA is financially sustainable. I'm happy to go to the recommendations in the report or take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Claire. So I'll now open it up to debate from the floor. Councillor Graham Cheatley.
Chair, I'm pleased to propose the Housing Revenue Account final budget for 2026-27 and the medium-term financial plan. This year's HRA budget has been developed during a period of significant and increasing pressures across the national housing sector. Rising construction costs, inflation within the repairs and maintenance market, and the continuing pressures around temporary accommodation and homelessness all shape the context in which we are operating in. Despite this, the budget before you is both balanced and sustainable, enabling us to continue improving the quality and safety of our housing stock, meet our statutory landlord responsibilities, and further strengthen our long-term asset management approach. At its core, the HRA exists to provide safe, high-quality, affordable homes for our tenants, and this budget allows us to continue delivering that. It funds the essential day-to-day management of over 9,000 homes, ensures we maintain properties to a good standard, supports the delivery of major capital investment programmes, and continues our work on building safety, compliance and energy efficiency. The 26-27 budget has been prepared in line with the government's rent policy, which permits an increase of CPI plus 1%. This enables us to keep pace with inflationary pressures while ensuring we can continue to invest meaningfully in repairs and improvements. For tenants, this rent increase remains affordable and when set against comparable social housing providers and is essential for protecting the long-term health of the HRA. Over the coming year, our capital investment programme will focus on the areas that matter most to our tenants, ensuring homes are warm, safe and well maintained. This includes continued investment in compliance works, such as the fire safety, electrical testing and asbestos management, ongoing programmes of roof, window and kitchen improvements, and measures that support the lowering of utility costs for residents. We've also engaged with tenant representatives throughout this process, as required, and their feedback has been both constructive and appreciated. Their insight continues to strengthen the HRA and ensures that tenant priorities remain firmly embedded in how we plan and invest. Importantly, the budget continues to support our homelessness and rough sleeping strategy, work that sits at the heart of our commitment to protect vulnerable residents. And while these pressures continue to grow nationally, this HRA enables us to maintain good quality temporary accommodation and to work proactively to prevent homelessness wherever possible. The medium-term financial plan shows that while pressures remain, the HRA is stable. It is operating within its means, and the financial strategy being recommended today ensures that we maintain a viable and sustainable position over the coming years. Chair, this is a prudent and forward-looking HRA budget. It protects services, invests in homes and maintains compliance, and supports the long-term sustainability of our housing stock. I would like to thank officers for their work and collaboration with tenants, and I commend this report to Executive.
Thank you very much for that. Any other members? Councillor Brian Benworth.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to speak in support of the Housing Revenue Account budget for 26-27. The HRA is fundamentally about protecting the homes and well-being of thousands of our residents. This budget does exactly that. It is responsible, sustainable, and rooted both in fiscal discipline and social purpose. At a time I know where many councils are facing severe pressures, we are putting forward an HRA that protects core landlord services. It maintains essential investment in our housing stock and keeps the account on a firm, long-term footing. I believe this is not a statutory duty, but it's certainly a moral one as well. I particularly welcome the Council's continued commitment to plan maintenance and improvements. Investing in safe, warm, energy-efficient homes reduces long-term repair costs, supports better health outcomes, and strengthens our pride in our communities. This budget also ensures continued support for our most vulnerable tenants, whether through adaptations, responsive repairs, or stronger housing management. A secure and decent home remains the foundation for stability in people's lives. Crucially, our medium-term planning recognises future risks, from inflation to building safety, while still enabling essential financial investment. This is prudent, balanced financial management. And finally, I want to thank our tenants for their role in shaping this budget. Through our resident survey and tenant engagement forums, their priorities are clear. Safe homes, reliable services, and long-term improvements. This budget reflects that feedback. Chair, this is a well-constructed and socially responsible HRA. It helps protect our assets, supports our tenants, and prepares us for the challenges ahead. I'm pleased to second the HRA budget and the medium-term financial plan today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any other members wish to add anything? Well, we have a mover and a seconder. The recommendations are set out on page 247 of the agenda pack. Please may I have a show of hands for those in favour.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. So now we move on to agenda item 6, which is the Treasury Management Strategy. I'd now like to invite Claire to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report sets out the Treasury Management Strategy for the Council for 26-27. The key elements of the Treasury Management Strategy is the Treasury Management Policy, Treasury Management Strategy Statement and Prudential Indicators, the Minimum Revenue Provision Policy and the Investment Strategy. It seeks to also give delegated responsibility to the Section 151 officer who will implement and monitor the Treasury decisions in line with these policies and practices. Treasury management underpins the Council's ability to deliver its capital programme and maintain sound financial health. We must ensure that capital programmes remain prudent, affordable and sustainable, and that any borrowing or investment activity complies with the statutory requirements under the Local Government Act. The key main areas that the strategy covers is around capital consideration, including spending plans and resulting capital financial requirements, borrowing, including borrowing strategy, loan requirements, limits and maturities and structure, investments, covering cash management, security, liquidity and yield, and investment categorisation. For 26-27, the proposed limits include an authorised borrowing limit of 799 million and operational boundaries of 749 million. The strategy forms a part of the consultation of the budget, and the impact of this strategy is included within the papers that we've just heard. I'd therefore seek to go to the recommendations of this report or happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that. Now I'd like to invite member debate from the floor. Councillor Graham Cheatley.
Chair, I'm pleased to propose the Treasury Management Strategy for 2026-27, a report that underpins the financial stability of the Council and ensures we continue to manage our borrowing, investments and cash flows in a way that is both prudent and affordable. Treasury management is a statutory requirement, and this strategy has been prepared fully in line with the SIP for Treasury Management Code and the Prudential Code. The strategy before you emphasises three core principles, which Claire's already mentioned: security, liquidity and yield, in that order. These principles guide our day-to-day financial decisions and ensure that public money is not only protected but used in the most effective way to support the Council's wider goals. The financial environment in which we are operating continues to be challenging and highly dynamic. Interest rates have fluctuated significantly over recent years, and while inflation has now moved closer to the government's target, borrowing costs remain elevated. This strategy takes a cautious and forward-looking approach, allowing us to respond to further movements in the market and avoiding unnecessary exposure to volatility. In developing this strategy, we have undertaken a full assessment of our existing borrowing requirements, future capital plans, and the revenue implications of our capital programme. The Council continues to follow a disciplined approach to borrowing, only borrowing when it is absolutely necessary and ensuring that any decision represents long-term value for money. Where possible, we will continue to utilise internal borrowing, which reduces the need for external debt and helps us manage interest rate risk. The strategy also sets out our approach to investing surplus cash balances. As members will know, the Council's investment priority will always be the security of public funds. We only invest with highly rated institutions and counterparties that meet strict criteria, and we will continue to take a diversified and risk-averse approach. While investment returns remain modest in the current climate, our focus is on safeguarding taxpayers' money and maintaining the liquidity needed to fund services. Importantly, the strategy includes the required prudential indicators, which ensure that our capital spending, borrowing and Treasury activity are affordable, sustainable and proportionate. These indicators have been reviewed by the Section 151 officer and reflect a sound and responsible financial position. In addition to the strategy, reaffirms our continued commitment to strong governance and regular monitoring. Treasury performance will continue to be reported to members during the year, enabling transparency and timely oversight. Chair, this Treasury management strategy provides a stable foundation for the Council as we navigate a challenging financial landscape. It supports our capital ambitions, protects our financial resilience, and ensures we are managing public money in a way that is robust, compliant, and fully aligned with our long-term financial sustainability. Again, I want to thank officers for their work in preparing this detailed and highly technical report. Chair, I commend the strategy to Executive and ask members to support the recommendations set out. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any other members? Councillor Kirk-Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this. The Treasury Management Strategy is a statutory requirement. It provides the essential framework that ensures the Council's borrowing, investments and cash flow remain prudent, affordable and sustainable. The strategy is, as you've heard, aligned with the SIP code and national guidance. It's also, as we've heard, been considered by scrutiny as part of the wider budget process. It doesn't introduce any new spending decisions, but ensures that the capital programme and budget are supported by robust governance. For these reasons, I'm content to support the recommendations and recommend them to full Council. Thank you.
Any other members wish to add anything on the Treasury report? I'm looking round. Well, we have a mover and a seconder. The recommendations are set out on page 265 of the addenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Please may I have a show of the hands for those in favour.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. I can confirm that I have received no requests to consider any urgent items. But can I just say a few words? It's a year ago that I sat over there as the leader of a group of 2 and said I look forward to presenting the next budget of this council. And here it is. And I can actually say it's been an absolute pleasure to work with an amazing executive, wonderful senior officers, but also the whole of our staff who have been so helpful and so supportive in this journey. But guess what? We've only just begun because we're going to deliver an exemplary council in the next 3.5 years. So with that, that concludes the business on the agenda. I thank all members, officers and the public who have taken the time to watch this